dlatego! Hello and welcome to another episode of Ferret64 with me, your host, Yemmy the Ferret. Ferret64 is, of course, the one-stop shop for all your video game news, occurrences, first impressions, and so much more. We got a pretty nice episode for you today. Lots of stuff happening, so we'll get right into it. But first, as usual, we got to go through my gaming pickups this week, and also I have something special. I actually redid my shelves in the background, so I'm going to go through each and every one of my shelves in the next section as well, just talking about what I have, my collectible shelves. I also got new lights for them. They broke the past week, and I was hoping that they would come in and I would get them up before the podcast episode, and I did. Score one for me, folks. Yeah, I also want to say I appreciate everyone who's been listening to the podcast. If you want to rate it on Spotify, I'd appreciate that. Review it on Apple Podcasts. Or even like it on YouTube if you're listening to the Spotify version or whatever. If you like it on YouTube as well, that also does help the podcast a little bit on there too. So I'd appreciate that. And if you don't remember, or if you're still an audio listener, there is a whole YouTube version that has me going through the news and showing things off. So if you want to watch that, you can. But if you're fine being an audio listener, that's okay as well. We love you both. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the first part of the show, which is, what have I picked up this past week? To start things off, one, I'm a bit tired because I didn't sleep well last night, but two, there was a sale going on Amazon. It was a weird name for it. It was like a buyout or whatever. I guess another one of those ones where it's like, oh, we have too many of these in stock, we need to sell them, so we're gonna put them on sale. So one of the games that I bought was called The Invincible. This is a PS5, the PS5 version. I like the cover artwork for it. People have said that it's a pretty decent game. It seems pretty linear, which I'm not I'm not gonna complain about. I'll probably play this for like an October stream or something like that because it does look maybe a bit spooky. So The Invincible, it's still in its plastic wrap. I'll probably open it up eventually. Also, I picked up Pacific Drive, a physical version of Pacific Drive. Now, this game came out a couple months ago, and I've been really interested in picking it up, but I wanted a physical version, and the deluxe edition was the same price as like the regular edition, which is, kind of cool. I don't really want to take it out of its packaging because I was having trouble with that. They have one of these stupid sleeves over it, and I just was having a hell of a time getting it back on when I last opened it up, and I don't want to take it off fully, but the game's in there, and there's also like a travel guide, which is actually kind of cool. You can write down your progress and stuff like that, keep track of your progress on with this little guide there. There's also a couple postcards in there. It's not too crazy, but I wanted to get this physically because it seemed like a cool game, and I'll probably be trying it out this weekend. If not this weekend, this week. So there you go. Cool. I also like the box art. I think the box art for the deluxe edition is pretty nice. Next up, you know me. I'm an eBay deal hunter, and I got two games here that were pretty good deals on eBay. One of them was called Valfaris. This was a bidding war, quote unquote, but no one bid on it, so I got it for $10 plus shipping. Brand new sealed in box. Love that. I think it's like a side-scroller shooter or something like that, but the box art looks cool, and the game concept seemed kind of cool. And then also, probably the best deal that I got this week was Astrobot Rescue Mission. This is the PSVR game for the original PlayStation, and this was a sealed copy as well. I had to open it because the disc was loose. I hate it when that happens. But this one was, I believe, a bundle. Because it says not for resale on the side. So I believe this was in the PlayStation VR 1 bundle. So that's pretty cool to have this. This game sells for about $30 to $40 brand new. I got this for $12.50 plus shipping because it was a bidding war that no one bid on. Like, absolutely no one bid on. So I found this one pretty nice for a cheaper price. And I do expect to start streaming PlayStation VR original games. I have a lot of them, and I think it would be fun to go back to that because I actually started my original streaming career on YouTube. I started playing VR games, so it'd be nice to go back to that at some point. Here are two games that, well, one game I used to have, the other game is new, but I wanted to pick this up because it has a copy of a game on it that you can't get outside of this collection anymore, and that is Medal of Honor, the reboot. It includes Medal of Honor Frontline Remastered. It's actually a remastered version of Medal of Honor Frontline. Now, I have played the original version of Frontline on the channel before, on the Twitch streams before, and I really love that game. It's probably my favorite of the Medal of Honor games. And the remastered version isn't too bad. I remember it. It has some improved visuals and stuff like that. So the only way to get that nowadays, at least physically, is with the Medal of Honor case, the actual Medal of Honor reboot box for the PlayStation 3, and I think Xbox 360 also had it. You know, I think that you put the disc in and it like downloads separately. Yeah, I thought that was a great pickup. I also used to have this game, so if you're a person who follows me in the backlog golf contest, you'll notice that my score doesn't really change too much. One, I don't update my stuff right away, but two, I also you don't get points for picking up games that you already owned, and I already own this one. And I also usually beat games, and then I buy a game. So every game that I beat, I pretty much buy a game at this point. So it's kind of like a stagnant number. Also picked up Arctic Thunder. I thought this one seemed kind of goofy. It's a snowmobile racing game with like weapons, kind of like I don't know, like a hardcore Mario Kart. The reason I got this was just it seemed pretty goofy. Also, I got this on eBay. It was a bit cheaper than buying it in the store at the place I go for used stuff. It is complete in box. It's a pretty nice copy. It's got a little bit of wear and tear at the top here, but I think it's a pretty nice copy. I'll probably be playing this one sooner rather than later. It seems pretty cool. I like the idea of this one. And then finally, for what I need to show off today, or want to show off today, I'll talk about this game in a little bit. But we played Shark Tale on stream, Shark Tale on the PS2. And I just wanted to show off that I had this game because, you know, it's one of those ones that, I mean, I'll talk about it. It's a bit goofy, but I have it complete in box, which, you know, I do like. But we have Shark Tale, starring knockoff Will Smith and knockoff Jack Black. Let me talk about my shelves. I'm gonna put some pictures over here of close-ups of the stuff I got. And I'm just going to talk about it. So the first shelf that the top shelf, top right, you probably can see it over there, is my Clayface / Scarecrow shelf. These are my two favorite Batman villains. Clayface obviously gets a bit more love. I have a 1 of 1,000 statues of him from the animated series. I have the animated series action figure in the back. There is like this little toy version of Clayface that I got, which is on top of the Clayface box. That came with like a little Batman as well. I think he's inside of Clayface right now. I just thought it was kind of cute, so I picked it up. Of course, there's the Funko Pop version of Clayface as well. I think that one went up in price recently, but I have that. And then I also have the Lego version of Clayface as well, which was fun to put together. On the other side, we have the Scarecrow stuff. So I have the two different versions of the animated Scarecrow. Apparently, there was two different versions for whatever reason. But then I also have a Lego version of him in his little Scarecrow copter. And then I have a pretty cool statue of Scarecrow. He's like wrapped in barbed wire. He has his pitchfork and stuff like that. So I thought that was a pretty cool version of him. So I picked that up. The next shelf is the Banjo-Kazooie shelf. If you don't know, Banjo-Kazooie is like my favorite game of all time. It is my favorite game of all time. Whether it be on the N64, NSO service, or the Xbox version, I love this game to death. So, of course, it's going to be a whole shelf dedicated to Banjo-Kazooie. We'll start in the back. We got the latest Banjo-Kazooie plush in the back there that I picked up at Target. In front of that is a 3D printed Banjo-Kazooie, or Banjo Extra Life token. In front of that is just a little picture that I got with other order. There's also an orange Jinjo there as well, who is a pretty new plush as well. In the middle, standing on top, there's a matte at the bottom, which is like a record cover. Essentially, it has all the worlds in like a kind of cool, cute, cartoony version. I don't have the record for the soundtrack, but I thought that the cover was pretty cute, so I picked that up. On top of that is the Banjo-Kazooie controller holder, which is not available anymore. And he's holding, of course, an N64 version of Banjo-Kazooie. Behind that, we have the Banjo-Kazooie amiibo, of course. Can't go wrong. In front of him is there was like a special collection of character figures. I have a couple of them that they were selling exclusively at GameStop. They all had like this plus base on them, so I picked up the Banjo-Kazooie one among other ones as well. In the back there, we have the U2's version of Banjo-Kazooie and Bottles. I picked those up in a combo pack. There was one for 2D as well, but I didn't pick that up. So my collection is a bit incomplete. Right next to that is an older Banjo-Kazooie plush that came out more than, I think it was like 5 years ago at this point. In front of that is a little keychain that I got off of Etsy with the Banjo-Kazooie N64 cartridge. There you go. One of my favorite shelves right there. Next shelf is a bit of a mix. It's pretty much just like Batman villain showcases. I enjoy most of Batman's villains. I don't think there's a single one that I really truly hate that I've really dived into. But in the back there we have the two different collections for these two different storylines for the Batman run during the New 52. So there's the Court of Owls run, and there is the Death in the Family run as well. And the box versions have masks in them. So one is like the Joker's face peeled off, and he wears it as a mask. And the other one is a Court of Owls mask, which is also pretty cool. In the middle there is a Bane animated series figure. I thought it was so cool. And I also have a Bane minifig as well, a Bane Lego minifig right below him with a Lobo, Funko Pop Lobo on the side. I always thought that it was probably one of the coolest versions of the Funko Pops that you can find. On the right side is the Penguin Lego car. And then also there was a mini set, Lego set with Penguin in like a little rubber ducky, kind of like in the Batman Returns movie. And behind that is like a little Penguin like bobble figurine. I don't remember what they were called. On the other side is the Lego Riddler car, and then also the Catwoman Lego motorcycle. Both really cool builds. Next up, we have more of a miscellaneous shelf again. We have in the back right, we have the Assassin's Creed 3 collector's edition statue. I got that from my local comic book shop for like $25. Original retail price like $150, so that was pretty good. In front of that is, of course, the NES edition World Championship gold cartridge. I just think it's a cool thing to have out. To the side, a little bit to the top, is the Cult of the Lamb hat that I got for playing the game at PAX East a couple years ago. In front of the NES cartridge is a Bomb-Bomb, of course. To the left is Glumpy. I got him at a fair. I thought he was really funny. All the way in the back, in the middle, is a cup from the PAX East, like pre-COVID PAX East that I went to, where you could demo Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus. And you actually got a strawberry shake inside of that. They actually mixed them at the booth, and you got the collectible cup. So I love having that in my collection. In front of that is a bunch of Crash Bandicoot things. I love Crash Bandicoot. He's one of my favorite characters in video games. There's a keychain. There's a jetpack action figure. There's a TNT box that if you touch it, it makes the TNT noise. On top of that is a little Crash Bandicoot hula skirt dancing guy. He was actually, I think he was with the pre-order for Crash Team Racing, Nitro Refueled or whatever. And in front of that is one of those figures that I was talking about before with a little plus base. The gold Crash Bandicoot was a bit more rare than the regular Crash Bandicoot. In front of that is a bullet tank made out of bullets. It's just kind of a cool thing that I picked up. On the left side is my Ghost Papa Armidas little grail, I guess, little praise place. I have an action figure for him. I have the cassette for the latest release that they did with the it's like the movie soundtrack that they did. So I have that on cassette. That's a 1 of 200. So that's probably going to be pretty pricey in the future. And then in front of that, I have a little a little statue figurine of Papa Armidas. And in front of that is a little pyramid I picked up when we went to Seattle for PAX East a while ago. I'm sorry, PAX West a while ago. It was at one of those like weird shops, and I just picked it up because I thought it was cool. And then next to that is another one of those plus bottom figurines with the Bloodborne Hunter on it. Next shelf, we're in the middle now. We have my Funko Pop shelf / like PlayStation shelf. This is maybe it's a bit more miscellaneous, but I have just the Funko Pops that I have. These are pretty much all the ones that I have that are in box. The two at the top are the two PlayStation ones. Sly Cooper is going for $100 to $130 right now, which is pretty crazy. Sir Daniel Fortescue is going for like $30 to $40, which is also kind of crazy. I bought them for like $15 each on Amazon. Or I'm sorry, at GameStop. They're GameStop exclusives. I got those at GameStop. Right below that, we have the Batman Returns Penguin, which I just thought was a cool looking figure. It's not really worth too much. Next to that, kind of hidden, is a 2017 Summer Special Edition Man Bat. This was exclusively released at like a Comic-Con. The price is kind of like 50 to 60, so it's not like too bad, but you know, there you go. Next to that is the Walmart exclusive Killer Croc Batman Imposter. I thought it was just kind of cool looking. It's also a Walmart exclusive, but it's not like super crazy. Next to that is the like anniversary black box Funko Pops, two of them actually. So one is Red Sun, which is like the Soviet version of Batman, and then right below that is the Batman Red Death from Batman Metal, which is a pretty cool version of him. He like takes over the Flash's powers in that comic book series. Next to the Red Flash, the Red Death Batman is the Mr. Freeze from the old 60s Batman show. I just have like a few Mr. Freeze things at the bottom here. In the middle is the Mr. Freeze exclusive from, I think it was like a DC showcase or something like that. That one's actually pretty rare. That's about $100 as well. And then the one next to it is the Batman and Robin Mr. Freeze version, which I just love that movie. You know, even though it's like not it's obviously not great, but I just love that movie in like a guilty pleasure kind of way. In front of this, we have the Mr. Freeze Lego figure. We have a Killer Croc Funko Pop, and we have the like a PlayStation Trophy glass with a Sackboy in it. That Sackboy is actually from the deluxe edition of Little Big Planet 3. And then next to that is a little Astrobot figure that I got a little while back. He doesn't stand up too well. The next shelf is a bit of a weird one. This one has all my console, like my older like the ones that can't fit on my other shelf. I have a shelf over to my left that has the old consoles on it. These are the ones that don't fit in those little cubbies. So I have an original PlayStation 3 Fat Boy, I have an Xbox 360 Elite, a PlayStation 3 Slim, and a PS4 Original. Next to that is a jug from a place that we went a while ago. It was like a German town we went to in Ohio. We have Psyduck, Ripped Psyduck. These were pretty popular a few years ago. I love this one the most, so I got that one. And then I also have a Shrek Huggable that I got at Five Below. Oh, I also have a Courage the Cowardly Dog here. You've probably seen him in my camera feed for a while. This is a signed print of Courage the Cowardly Dog. Next up, I have my Vans Warped Tour / Ailstorm Shrine slash Necrogoblicon, I guess. My other half got me this Yemmy the Ferret background thing and all the way in the back a few Christmases ago. So I have that there. In front of that, we have the pirate ship that I got from my friend a very long time ago. It just kind of fit the theme, so I put it there because I also have my Ailstorm stuff. So I got I guess I have the Necrogoblicon John Goblicon plushie is coming out of the Ailstorm tankard, but the Ailstorm tankard that came with the deluxe edition or like a special edition of their album Seventh Rum of a Seventh Rum, and it's got like a tentacle coming for the grippy. It's got the logo on it. It's pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool. The cannon down there is actually from Louisiana. We went to Louisiana when I was a kid, and they had a like a Civil War historical site, and I bought that there. Next to that is a rubber ducky that I had signed by every member of the band, Ailstorm, and I have that inside one of those like baseball glass things, just so it doesn't accumulate dust or anything like that, because that's very special to me. Next to that is a coconut pirate, which I got from California. There was like a bunch of them, and that was like my favorite looking one. Next to that is the 50th years of Vans Warped Tour bottle that I got when I was there. That was actually only at the last Vans Warped Tour. It's pretty cool, very memorable. And then in front of that is a banana duck, which is also another Ailstorm thing as well. The next one is my Bug Snacks plushies. I have 4 of them. I have Filbo, I have Cinestale, Bunger, of course, and Strabby. I know there's one more that I don't have, but it's one of those things where it's like I didn't really like that one in the game or like in general, but these ones I like. I'm probably gonna add at least one more thing to the shelf eventually, but I wanted to keep the shelves a little bit more. I'm sorry, a little bit less cluttered. There was a lot of stuff that I actually took down from these shelves. The next shelf, we have about 4 more to go. The next shelf is my Star Wars shelf. The stuff in the back are the Micro Machines little play sets. One is Hoth, the Death Star, and Endor. I used to have these as a kid. I opened them up. I have them in the basement. But these are in package sealed. I found them at my local used store for like $20 a pop, and I had to get them. It's just very memorable for me. In front of that is an AT-AT that you got with one of those. It was like a Micro Machine set, and then next to that is a little AT-ST figure that I got a while ago. The A-Wing is the original Lego A-Wing. I love the A-Wing. I think it's a great design for a starship. In the middle is the Probe Droid Lego set. It's one of those like fancy ones that are really well designed. I really enjoyed putting that together. To the side of that, we have a couple of more Legos. So we have the Commander Cody like Lego set, a Lego figure. We have the AT-AT from The Last Jedi. There was like a grab bag that you could get that in. The Jango Fett, the Boba Fett Slave 1 build. That's like the little small one. It was on sale for like $5, so I picked it up. In the background, there is the like they were doing these really cool things a while ago where they had like Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, Boba Fett, even Kylo Ren got one where they did like this samurai outfit for them and they made them into figurines, and I bought 2 of those. They were pretty cool. On top of that, there's a Lego TIE Interceptor, and in the back is a very old toy that I had when I was a kid. Essentially, it was like this X-Wing that you put on top of like this little blaster thing, and it would make sounds when you pulled the trigger, and you had like little laser beams that could come out. Like plastic things that shot out of it, and I used to do some lines from A New Hope. It was just a fun thing that I used to play with, and I've kept it for all this time. The next shelf is the Deathstroke shelf. It's just one thing essentially. It's the Deathstroke figurine that I bought. Not figurine, but like statue that I bought, and then the Deathstroke Volume 1 from the New 52 era, which had the Deathstroke mask in it. It's hard to see in this picture, but it is in there. Next up is the Doom shelf. So I have the 2 little Doom figures for the Cacodemon and the Doom Slayer himself. These are the ones that look like the little toys you find in the game itself. I thought I had to pick up at least 2 of them. They were so cute, so fun. In the middle there is the limited run release of Doom 64. It came with a bronze or silver N64 cartridge. The game itself, of course, I thought it was really cool, so I picked that up. Over there is a Doom Slayer unicorn outfit, which I thought was just kind of cute. It was only like $10 at the store I was at, so I just picked it up. And the next to that is the Matt McMuscles plushie that he was selling. I really like his content, so I decided to pick it up and put it on the Doom shelf because it fits. Next up is the Joker Baby shelf, and it's mostly taken up by the Arkham Origins Collector's Edition. This is actually my partner's item, but she lets me put it on my shelf because where else are you going to put it, you know? So even though I'm not a huge fan of Arkham Origins, the game itself, this collector's edition was pretty cool. It's got the Joker stabbing like a thing in the middle, and there's like TVs behind him, kind of like how he is in the game, with the art book and the tin case next to it. In the back, you can't really see it, is the Greg Capullo version of the Joker, which is pretty cool from the like end game era, end of New 52 version. Of course, there's a little fish plushie, one of the most famous things from the Joker era. There's a PS3 tin that came with like mints inside of it back in the day. That's next to the desk. There's a Joker in a bumper car. That was like a grab bag Lego set. The Joker and Harley Quinn car build is also there with a little blind box Red Hood, Joker Red Hood figure there too. Next up is the Batman shelf. I have a lot of Batman, like old school Batman stuff, but a lot of newer stuff as well. The stuff in the front, there's a grapple hook and a Batarang and the VHS Funko box from the Batman '89 movie, which I adore. I think it's a great movie. Even though Batman kills way too many people in that, it's still really, really fun. Next to that is the Sonar Batarang from Batman Arkham Knight. They were selling it in like in a box at GameStop a long time ago, so I picked that up. On the right side is the 75th anniversary Bob Kane original Batman figure. It's a pretty cool one. I got that from a friend back in the day. It was a pretty cool one. I enjoyed that one. On top of that is the I forget what that series was called, but like at the end of the world happens and Batman has Joker's head in a jar, or a lantern or whatever, and it was a pretty cool series. And they released a little figure for it, so I got that. Next to that is a is a little grab bag Batman Batmobile tumbler that was sold a very long time ago. I think I have two of them actually. Next to that, there's two different versions of Batman. Both of them are the Greg Capullo versions. One is like a regular version. The other one is the Year One version. I loved both of those. I love the Batman New 52 run, so I had to get those. And then next to that are the two little clay guys. I forget what exactly they're called, but I got those a very, very long time ago, and they've just kind of been in my collection since then. And then the final shelf is another like more miscellaneous shelf, just things that I wanted to have on display. In the background there is my disc room saw blade shaped vinyl record. In front of that is Morden Solus, a little statue of Morden Solus. They were selling this for like it was like $10 or whatever on the Mass Effect store, and it was like such a good deal. And I'm so glad that I got it because it's a very nice figure. Next to that, there is a Dark Souls rubber ducky, which was pretty fun, along with two random Godzilla figures that I got from blind boxes. Next to that is in the middle is the video game donkey, big chunk, not really big chungus, but like the big donkey little figure. I love video game donkey, so I had to pick up this thing while it was available. Next to him, kind of more in the back, is the God of War 3 action figure. It's a very detailed God of War action figure. It's in the box, and I am definitely never opening it. It's so cool. In front of that, we have a Spyro action figure with also the Spyro Funko Pop. Next to that is the Venom licking like a Spider-Man lollipop, which is just a really cute thing. And then in front of that, I bought the Roller Coaster Tycoon pin that had like the guest who goes through the phases of like becoming more and more sick and then throwing up. It kind of is a Lenti thing where it's like a 3D thing. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into my shelves in the background. Just in case you ever had any questions as to what was back there, let's go ahead and move on to the next part of the show, which is what have I been playing this past week. Okay, we're gonna kind of breeze through this section. There's not too much that I was playing this week, even though I picked up a couple of games. First off, I want to talk about Frogmonster again. I know I talked about this a little while ago, but I thought, it's been a while. I finally finished it. Let me talk about it again. That way, it's back and fresh in people's minds. Frogmonster is a first-person shooter at its core, but it's a Metroidvania / Souls-like first-person shooter, fully. The game starts off, you don't really know where you are, but you're in some sort of swamp, and you are made by this like person with a wand, and they're like, hey, we need your help to defeat this dude. He's making evil monsters, so you got to go around and you kill all these monsters, and there's bosses everywhere. So it's a bit linear for the first like half of the game, and then they kind of open up the world to you to explore at your own leisure, which is a very good idea because it helps you get acclimated to the way that the progression works in the game, how the areas work. Essentially, you start off, you kill a few enemies, and then you get to a room that has like a rush of enemies. Like they keep respawning, you got to kill them all, and then you move on to the next room, which is usually maybe another hallway, but then there's like a boss room, essentially. So that's kind of the progression of the game is some enemies scattered around, enemy room with a bunch of enemies respawning, maybe another hallway or two, and then boom, you get a boss fight, something like that. And that's kind of how the game works throughout the entirety of it, where you kind of just are jumping around from enemy rooms to boss fights and stuff like that. And the open world is really nicely designed. It's got like it's kind of described as like a Minecraft style. It's like a 3D pixel art style. It's pretty cool. I enjoy it a lot. And the guns are really nice that you get. You start off with like a revolver, you get a shotgun, you get a submachine gun, you get like a crossbow or bow and arrow, stuff like that. So there's a whole bunch of guns to use. And the Metroidvania elements come in later on when you get abilities to break walls or use your tongue to swing on things, stuff like that. As a frog yourself, your tongue is very versatile in this game. They did this whole system of having these bugs flying around. And yeah, sure, they're nice for just like the ambiance, but you can also use your tongue to grab them and eat them. And essentially they give you either passive or passive like bonuses or like a quick bonus. So some of them give you like, oh, you can grab ammo from farther away, or oh, your gun fires faster, or oh, you get a little bit more damage, or oh, your tongue auto tracks bugs, so you don't have to be as precise, right? Then if you pick up the bug again, because you can equip bugs and then you can pick up bugs again in the field, they give you a little like a health boost, like, give you some health, give you some mana, etc. The mana is actually really important in the game because it's your special abilities. You can fire like a little orb that heals you if it hits an enemy. There's another one that just kind of fires like a volley of missiles that follows enemies. There's a couple of them. There's actually a good amount that you can find in the game as well of those. I don't want to talk about too much because I think you should play this game. I think this game is really great. It's definitely being swept under the rug. I mean, it was of course featured in an Iron Pineapple video, but since then, I feel like Frogmonster has just been swept under the rug so much, and I think it's a really great game. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, you're going to struggle. Yes, you're probably going to get a little angry at it at times. But the combat and the exploration and the boss fights are so well designed that it doesn't really matter. I was stuck on some bosses for quite some time, let me tell you. There is an easier mode that you can use if you so desire, which will decrease the boss's health pool ever so slightly every time you die. I did not use that until the very end when I was just stuck for like an hour on end trying to beat the final boss. I was like, just turn this thing on, get it done with, get it over with, right? But again, it's meant to be a challenging experience. You're not going to just float your way through it. Yeah, sure, there are a couple bosses that are a bit easier, sure. But for the most part, there's enemy rooms and bosses that will just kick your ass over and over and over again until you really learn their patterns, learn what they do, and move on. There's no shade in using that easier game mode, though. If that's what you got to use to get through it, go for it. Who fucking cares? If you're enjoying the game, what does it matter if you use the easier mode that lowers the boss's health pool if you die 5 times, more than 5 times? It doesn't matter. Just play the game how you want to. Have fun with it. I had a lot of fun with it going through on the normal difficulty. It was very difficult, but it was worth it in my opinion. But if you need to play in the easier mode, go for it. I'm not going to hate you for that, and no one else should be hating on you for that either. But yeah, the boss fights are like so well designed this game. Like there's a couple of boss fights that I was like, holy shit, this is like so cool. There's a boss far closer to the end that's like it's like a big caterpillar type guy who's running around the circular arena. And you actually go through him and shoot like vital organs in order to kill him, and you do it like a couple of times, and finally, it was such a cool fight. Like I was so blown away by how like cool that fight was. There's of course plenty of other ones. There's one that's like the scavengers, where you just kill the boss, right, and it dies and it falls into like a hole. If you follow the boss into the hole, there's these like creatures that are scavenging his body for parts, and so you fight like an amalgamation of like a guy with a laser eye, a big chompy guy, I forget what the other ones are right now, but it's like a cool amalgamation of all the little guys together on this little boss fight. It's really cool. Of course, as most Souls like do, there's the Ornstein and Smo in this game. It's the dual fight. It was actually pretty good. It was a lot easier than I was expecting, but the bosses had major health pools. Like they were tanky as fuck. But it was a pretty fun fight altogether. And then also the cool thing about the game is after you kill a boss, if you go to this guy's shack in one of the villages, he actually cuts them up and puts them into his soup, and there's like remnants of them in his shack, so you can kind of like relive the memories of like, oh yeah, there's that guy's disembodied head that I fought at the beginning of the game. That was a good time. The developer of the game, I think it's a single developer or like a very small team. He did say that I believe there's a new game plus coming for the game, but right now, the game is complete. It's ready to go. I didn't run into any glitches or anything like that. I just kind of got a little bit confused towards the end of the game as to where to go. There is not a lot of direction towards the end of the game, but you kind of just gotta. It's almost like a Metroid where you just gotta kind of remember like, oh, I needed to use the tongue grapple hook here, but I didn't have that, or oh, I can blow up this wall here with this gun. Let me go back and do that to a couple walls that I found. I forgot where the last breakable wall was that I could break down. And I also forgot that you could break walls in general. So there was a couple things that I was like, I must have been searching around that map for where to go for at least 3 or so sittings of the game until I finally realized, oh, I can actually blow up walls with this, like, it was kind of like a rocket launcher type cannon type thing that you get. So once I learned that, then I was like, oh, I've seen these like blue, like there's like a blue outline and then the wall looks kind of cracked. I've seen those before. I can go and shoot those things. And that's where I led myself to the end of the game right there. So, but there's a lot of bosses in this game. There's side bosses, main bosses, stuff like that. It's all so much fun. Lots of really great designed things. So if you haven't yet, and you're interested, please check out Frogmonster. It's a great game. I give it a 4.5 out of 5. It just needed maybe a little bit more direction, or maybe a hint system, like one of the characters giving you a hint as to what to do next. That's really the only thing that I would say is a bit of a criticism there towards the end, was just like the I don't know where to go. I'm stuck for hours just trying to find out where to go type things. But a lot of times the sideways will take you to something cool or give you something cool. It did get a little bit annoying when I was just retreading all the ground in the game, just trying to figure out what to do next. And eventually I found out, oh shit, I just need to blow this wall up, you know? And if you have the game, but you haven't played it yet, just go into it knowing, hey, it's a bit challenging, especially if you don't do the easier mode. But in the end, it was a great experience. I loved my time with it, and I think you will too. If you're a fan of first-person shooters, if you're a fan of more challenging games, if you're a fan of Metroidvanias, of Souls-likes, it's definitely one to get. It's a unique take on all those different genres. I don't know how else I can sell this to you without just saying, like, just buy the game. It's great. Yeah, good times indeed. I finished NES World Championships this past week. I will say, like, it was a good time. I enjoyed myself. I think other people are enjoying it more. But as a person who doesn't really like how 2D Mario feels, there's a lot of 2D Mario in this game. But also, a lot of NES games just kind of feel a bit slippery, feel a bit slick, don't feel too great. And I know it's like a limitation at the time or whatever, but you know, in general, like, even though I had fun with the game, I wasn't like super into it, you know. I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 in the end because it's still fun. I still enjoyed what they did with the game. There's just a bit of a grind towards the end where you're just like, I was just fighting the same, or doing the same challenge over and over again, like a 5-second challenge, fighting like one of those SMB3 bosses towards the end, just getting tons of money to save up to get like the other challenges done. And like there was a couple of games that I just dreaded playing, like Ice Climbers, Balloon Fight, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. I just dreaded playing those ones. There was a lot of them that I just were kind of okay with, and then there were some that I really enjoyed, like the Donkey Kong and Kirby ones. But yeah, I really just did not want to play the Kid Icarus stuff. I didn't really feel. I mean, the Zelda 2 was just such an easy group of challenges. It's so weird how. So I wasn't expecting it to be that easy. Other than that, it's fun. It's got a good presentation. It gets the job done. If you want to check it out, the collector's edition is pretty cool. I showed that off 2 weeks ago. Other than that, boom, bada bing. I also played a game called No Creeps Were Harmed TD, Tower Defense. I've played a couple of levels in this so far. It's actually a really good tower defense game. There's not much I can say about it that's not going to be like, oh, that's just a generic kind of sounding thing. But yeah, you essentially have an area. It's like a sci-fi kind of thing. It's got like a 3D plane on it. You have this like, yeah, of course you have to protect like the mining thing that's mining the ore out of the ground, and these creeps are coming from the spawners, and there's a pathway they go through. So you have like blockers, you have turrets, you have shotgun type turrets, you have artillery bases, you have thumpers, all these types of things that you get as you kill more and more creeps and level up your XP. And of course, as you go through it, you're trying to stop them for as long as you can, and eventually, unless you have the best stuff, they're going to start overpowering you. The cool thing about the game is it's very much like hands-on. It's not like one of those games where you kind of let your build go. It's very hands-on, much like Orcs Must Die, where you got to kind of keep upgrading your stuff, keep building new stuff, keep advancing things. The other thing that I really like about this game is there's no limit to how many turrets or how many barriers or how many things you can put on the map, which is great because there's so many tower defense games that are like, oh, you can only have 50 things on the map. Well, this game is like, nope, just fill up the spaces if you want to. So designing the best maze for the creeps and stuff like that is very fun, very satisfying. It's actually new, and it was on sale for the tower defense like Steam sale. So I only picked it up because it was there. and I've been having a pretty good time with it. I need to get back to it. Usually I played it. I was playing it while watching someone stream or something like that. But yeah, it was a fun time. And if you like tower defense games, I think it's a good one. It's got a bumping soundtrack. It's got a fun little story going on, and it's got some good graphics for what it is. So there you go. On the streaming side of things, we played Metal Slug Anthology, which is of course Metal Slug 1 through 7 plus X. And this anthology originally came out on the PS2 and Wii, which I did have back in the day, and then they re-released it through limited run games for like PS4 and Switch, I think. And it's a good anthology. Like, yeah, it like the PS4 version doesn't run very well on PS5 for whatever reason, but it's probably because it's PS2 on PS5. But other than that, the Metal Slug series is one of my favorite in gaming. Even though it does have some low points, the lows are like not that low in general. I did review all the games separately on GG, and then I did a final like big thing for Metal Slug Anthology, or a final thing for Metal Slug Anthology as a whole. I only count it as one game being completed though, because I've never finished the Metal Slug Anthology itself, but I have finished most of the games inside the anthology. I had to kind of work my way through it in my little listing, but yeah, essentially Metal Slug 1, 4.5 out of 5, classic. It is actually the game that got me into gaming, so of course I'm gonna have a bit of biasy there. Metal Slug 2 was a perfect 5 out of 5 for me. Metal Slug X was also, of course, a 5 out of 5 because that's just a remake or redo of the original game. And then let me see here. I just want to make sure I'm getting all this stuff right from my original thoughts here. Metal Slug 3 was it was fine. I think it was just overly difficult, and I also thought that like it tried to introduce too many things into the series. Not enough just running and gunning, regular enemies. There's a lot of weird enemies in this one. But still, at the end of the day, it was fun at least. But it's one of those ones that I just felt like maybe tried a little bit too hard to be more goofy and wacky. And then also Metal Slug 4 was kind of on the same level. I thought that the game was fun, but the levels were too short. The game was too short in general. And also, like, there was really nothing new about it. Like, at least Metal Slug 3 had, like, new enemies and new places to get to. Metal Slug 4 did seem like it was just kind of like, oh, well, people didn't like Metal Slug 3 as much, so we're going to go back to what's working. But they made it a bit more basic than it should have been. Metal Slug 5 was a return to form here. I like that one. Lots of variety, long levels, not overly difficult. It's just a really cool thing. And then Metal Slug 6, I also gave a 4 out of 5. I thought that it was actually pretty fun. Like this one, I believe Metal Slug 6 was more of like a coin, like a ticket machine, because they gave you lots of coins and they gave you like 3 lives, or 4 lives. And you had unlimited ammunition in your heavy machine gun. There was no pistol in the game at all. But it played really well. I thought that it played really well. I liked the new enemies. But the game, instead of having like those pixel art created backgrounds, just had like a very like ugly looking background and stuff in foregrounds type things. They didn't match the character style, because the characters themselves are still pixel art, but the backgrounds were all like artwork that wasn't really that great. So in the end, the Metal Slug Anthology is a great anthology. I know there's more games now than, of course, but the Metal Slug Anthology is great. It's definitely worth a pickup if you want to, but I believe it is a bit pricey now because Limited Run, of course, only does so many of those games. And there's also, of course, the original version on PS2 and Wii, so you can also try and pick that up if you want to. It might run a little bit better on the PS2 or the Wii because it was designed for those systems, but I still have fun with it. I also played Star Wars Episode 1 Battle for Naboo. This was a game that I used to play when I was a kid. It's, of course, based on the, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And essentially, it's like almost like a what's happening while the heroes are off doing what's happening on Naboo. So you're essentially playing as like a ragtag group of starfighters who are trying to help out the farmers, and they're trying to save people from the droids, and essentially at the end of the game, of course, you go up into the space and you help Anakin take out the big droid control module. And yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, it's fine. But Rogue Squadron obviously did what this game does better. I think it was made in the same engine, but not by the same people as Rogue Squadron. Yeah, it's still a fun little blast from the past. I gave it like a C tier. I was fine with it. And then we also played Shark Tale, as I mentioned before. This is a video game based off of the movie, the critically acclaimed. No, it's not clear. The movie that I would say is very strange. I mean, the designs of the fish are very weird, and like the story itself is very weird. But in general, I think the game actually is very high budget for the concept. The graphics look really good for the day, for the PS2 era. The gameplay, even though it's not like the greatest, is actually kind of unique. I mean, how many games can you play as a fish? There were some sections that I found really annoying, and like not well designed, but a majority of the game was decent enough. I thought it was a little cute at times. If you want to check it out, it's not like that expensive a game either. It's just kind of crazy how high budget the game feels compared to other movie tie-in games from the same era, like Over the Hedge and all those other like oddball kind of games that came from DreamWorks game division that aren't as high quality as this one. Even though I liked Over the Hedge's gameplay better, Shark Tale was still pretty fun. I gave it a C tier as well. It does the job. It also has a lot of copyrighted music. Like they're playing like the songs from the movie, which is also pretty unique for a movie tie-in game. Usually you don't get like the official music from the soundtrack, Yeah, it kind of follows the events of the movie, but it takes so long to get to like the actual meat and bones of it. Like they don't introduce like Lenny the Shark until like chapter 15, and there's only 25 chapters in the game. And the first like 15 chapters, you're kind of meandering, doing all these odd tasks that are like way too long at times. But in the end, I found myself at least enjoying it, which is more than I can say for a lot of older movie tie-in games. So there you go. All right. Let's move on to what's in the news. Okay. On the Bungie blog, they put out a post talking about how Bungie is pretty much closing down. It's pretty much merging with PlayStation. When PlayStation originally bought Bungie, they were at the top of their game. Destiny 2 was, going strong. And, they bought it for like $1 billion, to like Bungie for $1 billion, which at now, hindsight being 2020, not a great deal for them at all. Like even back then, it was kind of like a stretch to pay that much money for this Destiny franchise. Essentially, is what they were is what they were technically buying, was the Destiny franchise. And but once, I mean, it seems like almost immediately after PlayStation bought the studio, they started to put out like these rough or bad expansions. Even though Bungie was still like pretty much on their own doing their thing, they just didn't really seem to be on top of their game, which is very much highlighted by the reception for the one before the Final Shape, the expansion before the Final Shape, like Light Runners or something like that. But the Final Shape did come out. I think people enjoyed it. I didn't really hear too much negative about it, so that's a good thing. But I also didn't hear too much press at all about it in general. And now, probably about a month or so removed, Bungie put out this post talking about how they're going to be laying off 220 people in their studio, which is about 17% of their workforce. And then they're also pretty much going to be merging with PlayStation Studios. 2 games that were under development in the company have been canceled. I believe one of them was Marathon. The other game was not Destiny 3. Destiny 3 was never in development. Coming from Jason Schreier, he says that Destiny 3 was never in development. The other game that was also canceled, but it was canceled prior to the layoffs, was a game called Payback, which had been canceled. I don't want to read this entire statement because it's very long, but the main gist of it is that they had success with the Final Shape, but for some reason they don't have the funds to keep these people employed. And then also, they're going to be deepening their integration, quote unquote, with Sony Interactive. So there's going to be 155 roles integrated into Sony, which is about 12% of their entire their entire workforce. I'm guessing the people remaining at Bungie, the studio, are just going to be working on updates for Destiny 2 for the time being. They said that Destiny is going to be getting smaller updates periodically throughout the foreseeable future, I guess, but it's not going to be getting any more big content for the game. And if you don't recall, the head of Bungie was actually the one that stopped the production of like the Last of Us Battle Royale game or whatever it was going to be. Kind of looking kind of silly now that their studio is dying, that he said that game wasn't going to be good enough to go out into the market, yet here they are. They pretty much sunk their own ship. Even back in the day when that happened, I talked about it. I'm like, Destiny 2 is not at a good spot when this guy was telling PlayStation to like stop production on this because it's not going to sell. It's like, well, look at Destiny 2 right now. Are you really going to trust this guy who sunk his own ship? Like, I don't understand. It did also come out that a couple weeks prior to all these layoffs happening and stuff like that, the CEO of Bungie, I believe his name is Pete Parsons, after talking about, after doing this whole statement on his blog and of course on Twitter, it came out that he had actually bought like several cars for his collection that were like in the tens of millions of dollars, which is not a good look when you're letting your employees go because, oh, we don't have the budget to do this. But then he makes enough money to buy several cars that are worth like $20 million each. It's just one of those things. It's very strange. It's a bad look for him, which also led the people inside of Bungie and people, of course, on Twitter to call for his resignation. They're calling for PlayStation to put in another CEO while the changes start happening. So we'll see if that actually happens. But for right now, there's a lot of people losing their jobs inside of Bungie right now. A lot of people being integrated into Sony. I'm guessing there's going to be a bit of a skeleton crew at Bungie working on Destiny 2 for the foreseeable future. But as of right now, Destiny 3 doesn't seem to be on the cards. It wasn't in production at all. Marathon seems to be on ice. And that Payback game was canceled a while ago. Just was not talked about much. But I guess there is a bit of a silver lining. They're giving the people who are being laid off an exit package, including severance, bonus, health coverage, and those things will last for a couple months, so they can hopefully get jobs in their field. But it's always so annoying to see these things happen, especially when the CEOs themselves are living the high life and their employees, the people who actually put their passion and love into a game, get laid off, get screwed over. So there you go. I don't really have anything else to say about this other than if you want to check out the entire blog post, it's on Bungie.net. They have their blog up there. You can browse to that and read the entire thing. Like I said, I'm not gonna talk about, I'm not gonna go over the entire thing, but it pretty much just goes over what happened in the studio, and essentially they were being too ambitious and they hired too many people, and there was a rapid expansion, and then PlayStation bought them, and Lightfall didn't sell well, or it wasn't a good quality, and blah 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 blah. But it's like, yeah, but the Final Shape sold well, the Final Shape reviewed well, so why after a success are people getting fired? Same thing happened with Hi-Fi Rush. It's a weird state in the industry right now, and it's not a good one. Moving on to more sad news. GameInformer, the famous GameStop magazine that a lot of us grew up with, me, myself included. I started reading GameInformer back when I was like 12, 13. I was just getting into games and like really into games. And, the GameCube generation was kind of where I really started to buy games myself with my allowance and stuff like that. And I remember GameStop Pro membership being like $10 or whatever, so I decided to buy a Pro membership, and it was like $60 for the entire year, and you got the magazine shipped to you, and I loved that. And I used to like cut up the magazine, like the different images of the characters and stuff like that, and I had like a desk with like one of those clear plastic covers over it, and I would make like little collages underneath the glass with the different pictures that I cut out of the magazine. And of course I would also read the stuff before I cut them all up, but it was one of those things I used to do as a kid, and it was always a joy to see the GameInformer magazine in the mailbox. So in a statement on Twitter, GameStop came out and said the final level, farewell from Game Informer. After 33 years of bringing you the latest news, reviews, and insights for the ever-evolving world of gaming, it is with a heavy heart that we announce the closure of Game Informer. From the early days of pixelated adventures to today's immersive virtual realms, we've been honored to share this incredible journey with you, our leaders, our loyal readers. While our presses may be stopped, the passion for gaming that we've cultivated together will live on. Thank you for being a part of our epic quest, and may your own gaming adventures never end. And of course, that post had a bunch of love on it. But the one thing that came out about this that was exceptionally sad was that they were all. It wasn't just like oh, this has been a sunsetting thing that we've done for a while. We're sunsetting the Game Informer thing. And even though you could kind of see the writing on the wall that Game Informer was not going to last for too much longer, especially because I think like the quality of like the reads were a little bit lower than other publications, right? The reviews weren't as strong as stuff you can find online, but it was still a good place for gaming information and news and stuff like that. From what I remember from the last time I had a Game Informer copy, which was probably 3 or 4 years ago at this point. But the thing that really was a stickler in the end was that this was a sudden closure and they were all laid off. So that was a bit of a crazy realization once that news came out. The comments went from being like, oh, it was such a good time, blah, 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 to, wow, that's kind of shitty that they just kind of, GameStop just was like, nope, we're done. See ya. And that was it. And they, a staff member came out and said that they were about 70% done with the next issue. It was going to have a great cover. Who knows what it was going to be, but it was going to be a great cover. But I think a lot of us who are people who from like my generation and older, who grew up with like the Game Informer in their lives from the N64 era onward, Game Informer was of course a big part of a lot of our lives. You know, it wasn't just like a. I mean, back then GameStop was like the place to buy games. You would go there and you would buy games from GameStop. Like, sure, there was still Walmart and Kmart and stuff like that, but if you were a gamer and you wanted to sell your game and buy a new game, you would go to GameStop, and of course, while you were there, you would pick up the latest Game Informer or sign up for Game Informer to be sent to you. And I just remember the joy that I used to have grabbing a Game Informer from my mailbox, going in, reading it, fawning over all the games that I couldn't have because I didn't have like a PlayStation 2 or a Xbox, right? But the games look so cool, and you know, I just have so many fond memories of sifting through them and finding the best like, you know, characters and cutting them out and putting them into that the little almost like a scrapbook thing underneath my desk, little montage under my desk. And those days are long over, but the memories will always remain. And you know, I was trying a few different publications for gaming news. I did jump back on Game Informer, like I said, about 4 years ago or so was the last time I actually had Game Informer, but I did jump back on it after being off of it for a little bit. But then I switched over to like this other publication that was from the UK, and it was good. Like, I thought the quality was pretty high, but once again, I wasn't like, I do all this research and stuff for this podcast. Reading through all that stuff and maybe picking out a thing or two to talk, I just didn't want to, you know, it was just one of those things that was kind of muddling up my stuff. So let's continue talking about GameStop, though, because on Twitter, GameStop stirred up a bit of controversy, not only with Game Informer, but also with the Xbox 360 store closing down. In a post, once the Xbox 360 store was officially closed, they took the Xbox 360 store, like the icon, off of the Xbox 360 dashboard. GameStop quote tweeted a article talking about how the store was officially shut down, and they quote retweeted saying, "Bet y'all wish you bought physical copies now." And then in a reply to that post, they said, "Buy physical," and they linked GameStop's website, which is kind of funny. Because when you click on that link for Xbox 360 games that they posted on GameStop's website, the first game that shows up is Left 4 Dead 2 physically for $40. And I would just like to say that that doesn't seem right. I am a bit concerned about this pricing. I'm going to look it up right now live. Left 4 Dead 2 Xbox 360. $15, $20, $15. It has gone up in price a little bit, but is it worth $40? I don't know. Man, the prices on some of these things are just crazy. $30 for Fallout New Vegas, $40 for the orange box. Need for Speed Most Wanted Platinum Hits, $45. Like, okay, GameStop, thank you. But anyway, essentially, there was a lot of people who, of course, got a bit peeved about this. You know, Xbox 360 store closing down. It's a bit of a sad moment for GameStop to kind of like be like, ha ha ha, guess what? We sell physical games. There's a lot of mixed comments about this. Some of them good, some of them bad, of course. I'm not going to go through them all, but there's a lot of people who were pretty upset about this comment, saying like, hey, you know, if you guys are selling physical games, where are all your games? There's a picture of like a wall of Funko Pop or collectibles, and it's like, yeah, I get it, but once again, like, GameStop is just trying to change, like, this whole conversation about them selling Funko Pops and collectibles. I'm not like super crazy about that argument in general, because I mean, the collectibles and stuff they do sell. I mean, you know, they have Pokemon merchandise, they have tons of Funko Pops, sure, but they have a bunch of like little collectibles things, and it's like, yeah, that's I mean, you got to sell what's going to sell. And I think GameStop knows for a fact that, you know, most people who are going and buying physical games aren't coming to GameStop anymore. Like me personally, I get all my stuff through Best Buy. And also, like, a lot of people go Amazon, and of course there's eBay out there, which obviously you can find way better deals on eBay than any GameStop store ever. But you know, I mean, GameStop is still a good place to buy physical games, especially if it's the only place in your area that you can buy games from. You know, there's a lot of people who still pre-order games from GameStop. I used to pre-order games all the time from GameStop. But there was a change in GameStop a couple years ago, or it was around the time of when I was buying Doom Eternal from GameStop, where like the customer service at my GameStop kind of degraded. The person who was there for years and years since I was a kid left the store, and I just felt like the people who were working there were not like either well trained or not well versed in customer communication. I felt like the amount of money you were getting for games was extraordinarily lower than what you used to get for your games. And that's kind of what started me not wanting to sell my games anymore. Which was a good move, because there's a lot of games in my collection that I would have sold back then that are now worth like $30 to $40. And even though that's not a big deal for me, like I'm not gonna really. I mean, I like to collect these things, but I'm one of those people who's like, I'm collecting them not to really sell them, but just to have, you know. And if shit hits the fan, sure, I will sell things if I need to, but you know, it's one of those things. It's like I just like collecting games. Like it's always been a passion of mine, and I kick myself every day for all the games that I sold to GameStop for like $5 each, when now they're like worth like 10 to 15. You know, the price of games, the physical games are not going to go down. They're probably just going to start going up. They're probably going to start going up even more. I mean, we saw it with the N64 era. We saw it with the GameCube era now, and the PS2 era at this point, where those games are starting to become a bit more pricey. And I'm guessing that's going to leak into the 360 and PS3 era very soon. So if you're looking for, you know, the more niche games, it might be the time to buy them rather than later. That's not to say that there will still be a game that's like $5, like Medal of Honor or whatever. But you know, the games that were a bit more hard to find even back in the day are definitely going to be the ones that that go up in price. But yeah, this comment just kind of, you know, maybe a bit tone deaf, I guess. But in the end, I will say there was a time when GameStop had an overabundance of games, like the guitar. I know for a fact that they used to sell Guitar Hero 3 for $1.50, and I picked it up back in the day for $1.50. And I remember they had like a whole a bin of Xbox 360 versions of Guitar Hero 3. I know for a fact that they trashed all of them. They took all those copies and they just threw them away. The same thing happened probably with Rock Band games and other rhythm games that sold really well, but you know, obviously people want to sell them eventually because they're not they're not playing them anymore. I know for a fact that they destroyed those games, because I remember driving. My grandma used to live in a trailer park that you had to drive behind the GameStop to get to, and I remember seeing Xbox 360 cases being dumped into it with the Guitar Hero 3 logo, the Guitar Hero 3 cover on it. So even though GameStop is now like, oh, you buy physical, they were a part of a problem where a lot of games from the 360 and PS3 era that sold really well, but were being sold also in return a couple years later, were being destroyed because they had too many copies. They were deemed unsellable. I know that for a fact. Well, okay, allegedly, I know that as a fact. I saw it happen with my own two eyes. Two employees throwing away copies of Guitar Hero 3. Maybe they were just the cases and they shredded the games. I don't know what happened, but it was one of those things that I remember very vividly and being like, that's kind of crazy. And I went in the next day and there were no copies of Guitar Hero 3 on the shelf anymore, not in sight. So it's a very strange that all of a sudden they're like, hey, buy physical games, when they were the ones literally shredding video games back in the day. And maybe they still do it now. I don't know. Let's move on. I'm starting to rant a little bit. All right, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Of course, one did not come out for the Paris Olympics this year, and people were asking questions. So, a rumor is going around that the Olympics wanted to partner with other companies at this time. There was an esports brand that they wanted to partner with, and an NFT brand that they apparently wanted to partner with as well. And I was very surprised that NFTs are still like big major companies like the Olympics are still thinking about NFTs. Like at this point, I feel like NFTs are just a joke at this point. You know, I don't think there's any redemption for NFTs. But if they want to do an NFT for some reason, I guess go for it. But they said that the studio behind the Mario and Sonic games wanted to bring it back, but internally they were told that the Olympics was partnering with other companies for this year's summer games. And a guy named Lee Cocker, who I believe was I believe he was a developer or he worked on the Mario and Sonic games since the 2020 Tokyo, or maybe it wasn't the 2020 Tokyo game, but he worked on those of the franchise. He says in a Twitter post that the franchise is quote unquote finished. Mario and Sonic the Olympic Games ended with Tokyo 2020. He knows this because he worked on the games in the franchise. I don't know how long he worked on it, but there is some proof here that he did work on them. He met the International Olympic Committee president in 2009 in Switzerland. He presented a demonstration of the game for the Olympic Winter Games for Vancouver 2010. So I guess he does have a bit of credibility. So I'm just going to look into this a little bit more. He spent 14 years managing the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games franchise, overseeing external publishing, development, asset licensing, and ensuring timely delivery of the games within a budget. He also credits Sega and Nintendo for being some of the many high-profile companies he's worked for over the. Okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, kind of sad to see this go. I think a lot of people like these games, but I don't think anyone's going to be like super sad that they're gone. This was a legendary team up. Besides from Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Mario and Sonic only got together for the Olympic Games for quite a while. So it was a pretty legendary series just for that in general. So yeah, we'll see if it comes back in the future. But as of right now, it seems like the Olympics are going a different way. The PSVR 2 had a price cut, or it went on sale at some retailers, and the sales for the system jumped 2,350% since Sony announced the price cuts. So at select retailers, you had about $200 off the asking price of $550 for the PSVR 2. It was, of course, the bundle with the controllers and the headset. That's the only way you can get it. This is all through Amazon's data. Essentially, after January 1st, 2024, when the price cuts were enacted in some regions and in some areas, and some sales were, of course, being allowed. In that period, the PSVR 2 sold way more than expected, which just kind of tells you that the original PSVR 2 price point of $550 was just way too much. Personally, I thought it was way too much back when I got it, but I enjoyed it, so it's not like I was like complaining about it, but it is a lot of money to invest in something that quite possibly couldn't, might not be supported in a couple of years. I mean, Sony has already been kind of like backing away from the system where, a lot of games came to the PSVR 1, not all of them Sony based, but the PSVR 1 had a very long life cycle for the amount of games that it sold. And the amount of headsets that were sold for it. Whereas the PSVR 2 is just starting off, and we were kind of expecting Sony to put out a game or two, right? And we've only had Call of the Mountain, the Horizon spin-off game. That's an official first-party Sony published PSVR 2 game. So even though it still has good support with like other companies, Sony has not really lived up to their end of the bargain. When you go to buy this thing, you're expecting Sony games, but you're pretty much just getting third-party software, which is still good. And I'm still very excited for the Metro VR game. But yeah, we'll see how if this 2,000% increase in sales starts to kick it in the high gear again. We'll just have to wait and see. Speaking of Astrobot from earlier, Astrobot is getting a controller. The pre-orders will go live on August 9th for the controller, and they will be shipped to you just in time for the official Astrobot game to be released. The one thing that's really clever about this is it's a very unique control scheme. It's a bright white for the base of it, and then on the sides is like the Astrobot blue, and then in the middle is the touchpad with some the Astrobot's little like pixel eyes on it, which is a nice touch. It's going to sell for about $80, so it's actually $5 less than the Concord controller, which is kind of weird. But the pre-orders will be available on August 9th on the PlayStation Direct website, and they will ship by September 6th. They'll be available in limited quantities, so if you want to get one, make sure you set an alarm, I guess. I'm tempted to get this. I mean, I know I have the Spider-Man controller, which I have been using for quite some time now. I think it would be cool to just kind of have this and maybe put it on the shelf that has the Astrobot on it. I don't know. But, yeah, it's cute. I'm tempted. I'm definitely tempted. I don't know, though. Yeah. Nothing else to say about that other than it's cute. I like the design. All right, Civilization 7 is getting a gameplay reveal at Gamescom 2024. It's going to be a 20-minute deep dive into the gameplay. Jeff Keighley announced this on his Twitter account. Of course, Jeff Keighley was the one, his show was the one that kind of started the ball rolling, announced that Civilization 7 was coming around. As a big fan of Civilization, I'm excited to see what this one's going to be all about, how it's going to look, how it's going to play. My favorite, of course, was Civilization 5, but I don't think that's a unique take at this point. But the gameplay will stream everywhere on Tuesday, August 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. BST. So if you want to check that out. Fair Access Games, the people behind the Sid Meier's Civilization series, said, August is just the first step in our journey. Thank you for being the best fans in the world. We can't wait to show you Civilization 7 and take one more turn together. So, yeah, it should be pretty cool. It's supposed to be coming to all major systems and PC, but of course, PC is going to be the place that you want to play it. Because even though they did make a Civilization 6 version for Switch and stuff like that, they're never as good as the PC version, let's be honest. Yeah, I'm excited to see that, and we'll see how the gameplay looks in the near future. Xbox shared its new schedule for releases, for first-party releases, and there's one thing that is really catching people's eye. So I'm just going to go through them and talk about them as I see them. So August 26th, World of Warcraft: The War Within is released. September 4th, Age of Mythology Retold. September 24th, Ara: History Untold. October 8th, Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred releases. October 25th, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. November 19th, Microsoft Flight Simulator. 2024 to be announced. We have a couple games here. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Starfield Shattered Space Expansion, and Towerborn. Now here's where things get a little bit funky. Avowed, which was supposed to release in 2024, is officially going to be released on February 18th, 2025. So Avowed got a short delay taking it out of the 2024 realm. I'm pretty sure they moved it out of 2024, not only to keep working on it, but also I think Indiana Jones is going to be a big release, and I think Indiana Jones is coming out in November as well as Flight Simulator. So it's one of those things that's like, I think they're just trying to take Avowed and be like, okay, let's move this away so that we don't overlap two games, And of course, between Indiana Jones and Avowed, what's going to get more players? I think Indiana Jones is going to get more players just because it's a big IP. It's Indiana Jones. A lot of people love Indiana Jones. I personally do like Indiana Jones. I think this game's going to be good. And would I play it over Avowed? Probably, just because, I'm excited about both the games, but I am more excited about the Great Circle, honestly. But it seems like Xbox is going to have a bit of a busy final part of their year and into next year. We'll see how it goes. Other than that, South of Midnight, Doom, The Dark Ages, and Fable are all planned releases in 2025. So that's right now the lineup for the Xbox first-party games. We'll see if any of that changes in the future. But the big thing was that Avowed was delayed into February. So if you were expecting it this year, unfortunately, it's been it's being moved back. And I think Indiana Jones is taking that big November slot, maybe even December, honestly. But I hate it when games are released in December. It's such an awkward time to release a game because, one, the Game Awards already happened in early December, and two, for me personally, with my top 10 list, a lot of times in December, that's when I'm trying to finish the games that I've been working on all through the year, or get back to games that I stopped playing because other things came out that I was more interested in. So it's one of those, it just kind of muddies up my schedule a little bit as I try and create my own top 10 list. So we'll see what actually happens, but I'm predicting Indiana Jones probably going to be like an early to late November release. Some sad news this past week. Tony Pankhurst, who is the face of the curator from the Dark Pictures Anthology series, has sadly passed away at the age of 67. Supermassive Games put out a post on Twitter saying, "We are all saddened to hear of Tony Pankhurst's passing. He was the face of the curator, and we loved working with him." So it's possible that his face will live on in the future installments of the Dark Pictures anthologies. But the voice for the character is different, so I think they could still work with the face, the face model. But we'll see if they change it out of respect or anything like that. And just to kind of give you some background on him, Tony, he had a 40-year career working as a radio presenter back in the day, running his own business, and then he had, of course, numerous appearances on TV and in films like Rogue One and stuff like that. So, it's unfortunate to hear of his passing. 67 is actually, I would personally say, is a bit young nowadays. So it's unfortunate that to hear of his passing, and my thoughts with his family. All right, let's go ahead and move on to what was revealed at that game showcase. Okay, so the THQ Nordic showcase was, I think on Thursday, right? Thursday or Friday, I don't know, whichever day it was. And they showed off a couple of new things, but also a couple of things we already knew about. First up was a game called The Eternal Life of Goldman, and this was a very interesting looking one, hand-drawn animation style for both the cutscenes and the gameplay itself, so kind of Cuphead-esque, if you will, for the animation style. But it seemed to be more of like a platforming adventure game where you play as like this old man with a cane, and he's kind of doing platforming and it has some sort of magic wizardry to him, I guess. But it seems pretty cool. They didn't give a release date for it, but you can, of course, wishlist it now. Coming to all major platforms. Most of these games are coming to all major platforms, Switch, PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Next, they had a trailer for Epic Mickey Rebrushed, a new trailer for that. The game looks well done. In terms of like a remaster or remake of an older game, like it looks well done. I have no complaints about it whatsoever, other than the fact that it's coming out like the day before the Legend of Zelda game. So I think it's going to be swept under the rug by that. Personally, I'll probably wait for a sale on this one just because, even though I enjoyed playing Epic Mickey back in the day, I'm not like running to pick it up again, so I'll probably wait for either like a sale or something like that for the game. But I think it looks good for what it's worth. I think it looks good. It had a nice like 2-minute trailer just showcasing the the enemies and the areas that you're going to explore. Wreckfest 2. This was a bit of a surprise. Wreckfest 2 was announced. The trailer itself was not like amazing. Like they had like this whole monologue thing happening with this guy talking to his car, and it's like whatever, dude. Just show the game, And they did show the game, and it looks like it's gonna be pretty good. The original Wreckfest was a hit on Steam and stuff like that. This one looks like it's gonna be about this, also about the same a car wrecking game. I was more of a flat out kind of guy back in the day, and of course Burnout too. But it'll probably be a game that I'm interested in when we see more about it. This is supposedly coming to all the major platforms. They don't have a release date for it yet. I'm guessing 2025 at this point. Titan Quest 2 got a new trailer. Still no release date for it yet, but this is kind of like a top-down, almost like a Diablo-like kind of game where you build your own hero, modify your abilities, upgrade and fight enemies and stuff like that in a top-down world. It looks good, but it's not really my thing. I tried playing Diablo 4 and I wasn't like super big into these kind of games, and maybe I'll get back to it eventually, and maybe I'll find some love for it. But as of right now, not really my thing. But Titan Quest 2 looks like it's coming soon, but we don't have a release date for it yet still. So there you go. Gothic Remake got a nice showcase trailer, about 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes of gameplay, just showing off the various environments and stuff like that. Now, I never played the original Gothic, so I don't know how much of this game is really improved. Obviously, a better source would be probably someone who played the original Gothic game, but the remake is looking good. I like the limited HUD version that they're going for. This is another game that I'm like not super interested in, just because I don't think it's going to be like my type of game. I'm not really into like these massive RPG type worlds. I tried playing Baldur's Gate 3 and I was just like, it's just not really my thing, and I don't want to like invest hours and hours of my time into it just to continue not enjoying it fully. And I understand they're great games, don't get me wrong, but they're just not my thing. And this just seems like another game that's kind of like Dragon's Dogma or something like that, where it's just like it's not really my thing. It looks cool. I'm happy for the people who are getting this, who are excited, but it's just not really what I would want to play personally. They also talked about how that the AI characters are they kind of live their whole lives. If you remember, Cyberpunk also was kind of talking about the same thing when their trailers. So it does make me a little bit concerned, because it's kind of the same thing that the Cyberpunk CD Projekt Red was saying back in the day. So we'll see if they actually follow through on this promise. But it seems like they're doing a good job with it. And then of course they went over the different combat systems, melee and stuff like that. So it looks good. I'm not going to complain about it, but it's just not looking like my type of game. Speaking of games that aren't really my thing, Way of the Hunter, Luntikuko Reserve DLC. So if you don't know what Way of the Hunter is, it's a kind of like a hunting sim where you track animals and stuff like that and you hunt them down. Yeah, it's just not like, I'm just not like super crazy about this kind of stuff. Like, I'm not big on hurting animals, and I don't like these kind of games at all. And even though this is more like a simulation type thing where you're hunting like these elks and stuff like that, these animals that aren't like super rare, I guess. It's still just kind of like I don't know if we really need to do this. Like, obviously there's a place for this, and there's lots of people who probably enjoy hunting in these types of games, but once again, not really my thing. Not really in agreement with those kinds of games. Let's move on. Tarsier Studios, which are the people behind Little Nightmares 1 and 2, have a new game in the works. Now, they did not show anything off about the game other than like there was a Bloodborne-style pig with his guts torn open on the ground, walking a little bit, walking forward, I guess. It said that they were going to be announcing a new game at Gamescom opening night, Tuesday, August 20th. So I guess we'll definitely want to check that out if you're a fan of this studio. They said it's going to be unlike anything that you've seen from them before, so that does open up some eyes there, does it not? And then right after that, the final reveal was Darksiders had a teaser. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a remake of a older game or a continuation of like after Darksiders 3, but they did say be prepared to ride again. So it's possible that the fourth horseman is finally going to come around. I guess Darksiders Genesis was a spin-off, not officially a horseman in that game. I don't know. I didn't really play that one, but it seems like it's either going to be a continuation of the Darksiders timeline, or it's going to be like a remake of one of the games. But then again, it's like Darksiders 1 already had a remaster. Darksiders 2 also had a bit of a remaster, and I don't think they would remaster Darksiders 3 because it's still, I mean, it was only like a 5-year-old game or less. So we'll see what happens. As of right now, though, pretty exciting. Darksiders is a pretty long running series at this point. I think it's a pretty good series, hack and slash kind of series. So we'll see what happens. And that was the entire showcase. Let me know what was your favorite reveal in the comments below. Mine personally, it's a tie between Wreckfest and whatever this Darksiders game is going to be. But hey, there you go. Let's go ahead and move on to what's coming soon. Okay, the first deep dive into Planet Coaster 2 has been shown off on the Planet Coaster YouTube channel, diving into the water park situation. So if you don't know, from I think it was last week, they revealed that a new Planet Coaster was coming out, and they included an entire, or the big new thing was an entire like water park, theme park area that you could build. And we weren't sure if you could build like coasters and the water park together, but yes, they did confirm you can build a water park and with coasters being around and stuff like that. So it can kind of make it like your own little utopia, I suppose you could say. But the mechanics look sound, the ride designs look good. Planet Coaster was never like super my cup of tea, but I never really gave it a fighting chance because I always just went back to Roller Coaster Tycoon at the end of the day. But Planet Coaster is known for being a pretty much a spiritual successor to what people would want from a Roller Coaster Tycoon in the modern era. And Planet Coaster 2 is looking like it's going to be a very thought out, very well done park simulator. And you can obviously design your own pools. You can also design your own like placements of like the little the things in the area, the scenery and stuff like that. You can actually design your own stuff as well. There's plenty of new rides to, of course, pick from and choose from. I'm just kind of skipping through the video here, and yeah, there's just like a lot of cool stuff in here. Like the water slide designs are really cool. The new like roller coaster designs look really nice. Like the fact that you can make a theme park with both a water park and a regular theme park mixed is really cool too. And of course, the fan favorite Rides Your Creations, Ride Your Rides, is back, which is of course a thing that Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 started. And of course, it's been a staple in the theme park simulators for a long time. So there you go. I think this is definitely going to be a pickup for me eventually. It's still slated to come out in 2024, but they don't have a official release date yet. But I'm sure we'll see one soon. And the game is coming to like PS5 and Xbox, Steam, and Epic Game Store if you want to check it out in any of those locations. A Metroidvania called Crypt Custodian has been announced. Actually, the release date has been announced. This is a pretty cute-looking game where it's almost like a top-down art style, a very unique art style, I would say. It kind of reminds me of like, if you remember that game called like Road to Nowhere back in the day, it was a free PlayStation Plus game. It kind of has that similar style of like a hand-drawn kind of like style where it's very nice looking, very pleasing to the eyes, very, very nice. But yeah, essentially you play as this like humanoid cat kind of person, and of course as you go through the game you're doing combat against creatures and you're platforming and you're getting new abilities that allow you to get to different places, and of course there's going to be various boss fights to run into as well. The game is going to be released on August 27th. I'm sorry. Like I said, I was up way too late last night. I think it was up till like 2 o'clock at some point. So I apologize if this is starting to go downhill here. It's going to be available August 27th. It looks really good. There's puzzles, boss fights, dungeons, upgrades, abilities to upgrade as well. mix and match upgrades to customize your character to your playstyle. So, yeah, looks pretty good. This is coming from the same person who did Islets or Islets, which was a very good Metroidvania as well that I never finished, but it was also a very good one. So it's a good sign. You know, it's a good sign. So if you want to check this out, Crypt Custodian coming soon. All right, let's talk about games with great art styles. Cult of the Lamb's Unholy Alliance update. There was a bit of a deep dive into what the game or what this new edition is going to really be all packed with. Of course, as you know, the co-op mode is coming around. It will have local and online co-op. There will be some new follower traits as well. And also some new structures that you can build too. So the new traits are insomnia. People can have insomnia, demonic snoring that can wake others up, breaking friends out of prison. So you know if you put someone in prison, you can break the other characters can break them out, and being effective positively or negatively by when they return from missions. So that's a new thing as well. The new structures you'll be able to build, a nursery, which can look after up to 3 babies at once. Once they reach the age of 14, they will leave the nursery to free up space. Other structures, like the Knucklebones Arena, will allow you to have your followers go up against each other, I suppose. The difficulty of the match is related to their level, and if you win, your opponent will instantly level up. Nice. On top of all that, you'll be able to go on crusades in the Unholy Alliance. There will be new relics, tarot cards to discover, and more co-op features that will amp up your playthrough. So it looks like it's going to be a really good new content drop for the game. It's nice to see that they're still supporting it so heavily, and this is a very nice content drop. It's possible that this might be the last content drop, but we will see, of course, in the future. But as for content drops and how they go, this is a good one for this game. So there you go. Harry Potter Quidditch Championships got a new trailer, an official trailer for the game, showing off the single-player and online competitive modes. Essentially, it looks like how you would think that Quidditch would look like. They said that there's going to be no microtransactions in the game, and it's going to be free with PlayStation Plus day one, which is actually kind of crazy. So that's PlayStation Plus Essential. So that's like the bottom tier. So that's actually really nice. So it's definitely going to get a nice player boost from the get-go with that. As you know, there's a lot of games that built their reputation, like Rocket League and stuff like that, off of being day one releases for PlayStation Plus. So that's pretty cool. They showed off the character customization for your Quidditch player. They showed off the arena that you can fight in or play in. Essentially, the game's going to come out September 3rd, 2024. There's going to be 2 different versions available, the standard version and the digital deluxe or the deluxe edition version of the game. If you pre-order the game from Xbox, Steam, or Epic Game Store, you'll get the Firebolt Supreme Broom Skin. And the standard version of the game will come with the Firebolt Supreme Broom Skin as well for players who play on PlayStation Plus. Weird. What else? The deluxe edition of the game is going to come with 2,000 gold in-game currency, a Slytherin Stormrider Hurricane Broom Skin, a Slytherin Hogwarts Travel School uniform, a Slytherin House Crest emblem. There's also the same thing for Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Gryffindor. So it doesn't matter which house you choose. You'll get this pretty much the same thing for each of them, just in their respective houses. In a summary, they said, featuring iconic Wizarding World locations, characters, and references that fans will love, Harry Potter Quidditch Championships highlights the rush of flying across legendary arenas as either a beater, chaser, keeper, or seeker in a variety of modes. From backyard battles in the Weasley Burrow to the high-stakes showdowns at Quidditch World Cup, players will soar into legendary arenas playing as or against iconic characters such as Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, Hermione Granger, and many other quintessential characters from the books. So if you want to check that out, once again, September 3rd is the day, and apparently it's coming day one to PlayStation Plus Essential, so that's pretty cool. And we haven't had a Quidditch game since there was like a PS2 Xbox game. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see how this game is different from those ones. I think it looks fine. Like, I'm not like a huge Harry Potter fan, but I definitely will play it if it's on PlayStation Plus Essentials. I'll just play it. But you know, it looks fine. I think the graphic style, like it's a bit cartoony, sure, but I think it fits the style. And Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look too bad. So we'll see how that goes when that comes out. Check that out, September 3rd. Power Wash Simulator has a new crossover. Actually, they teased a new crossover during the summer game trailer, the summer update trailer. Essentially, the summer trailer just showed off some new locations that you're going to be power washing, including like an aquarium, a cruise ship, etc. I think these things are already out though, so if you want to check those out, they're already available. At the very end of the trailer, though, is what people are really excited about. They showed like an animated like plane flying through as they were closing as they were going to black, and it seemed people are expecting it to be like a Cuphead DLC. Now I don't know how Cuphead would translate into something like Power Wash Simulator, having to have 3D models and stuff like that, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But that's what people are expecting. I mean, they showed like an airport, but they also showed like a cartoony Cuphead-looking plane fly by. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Valorant is now officially out for everyone on the PS5 following a bit of a beta period. They have officially launched the game for free. It's free to play on the PlayStation 5. So coming out of closed beta, Valorant has been running that for a few weeks now. So the test has, of course, ended, and now they've officially launched the game. So even if you play, even if you weren't a part of the closed beta, you can now play the game on PlayStation. I believe there is cross-play between PC and PlayStation 5 right now, so that's pretty nice. So yeah, if you want to check that out, Valorant is available now on PlayStation. The Acrobat games are all heading to Switch later this year. There's 4 games in total that are coming over to the Switch I guess they're coming over individually, so it's not like a bundle. People are hoping that there's going to be a physical version of like a collection in the future, maybe from Limited Run or Super Rare or something like that. We'll have to wait and see. But the games are coming out in like they're kind of have a staggered release. So the original Arrow the Acrobat is already available. It came out on the 2nd of August. Arrow the Acrobat 2 will arrive on September 6th. The spin-off game called Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel will be on consoles on the 4th of October, and the Game Boy Advance title called Arrow the Acrobat Rascal Rival Revenge will be available on the 1st of November. So this means for the first time since actually ever, all the games will be available on modern consoles and on the same platform. So if you played Arrow the Acrobat back in the day, this will be a nice blast from the past. If you want to wait for a like collection, I'm guessing there's going to be one coming out. I mean, maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like there will be a collection coming in the future. But each game will be on sale for about $6 individually, so it's not too bad to buy them all individually if you need to. But yeah, there you go, pretty nice. Okay, the Dead Cells final update is arriving next month. They revealed Evil Empire revealed the release date for that. Actually, it's available this month. I apologize. August 19th is when this update will be available. Evil Empire came out on their Twitter account and said the end is really near. The last update we worked on for Dead Cells will be out in 3 weeks. Will be kind of weird to see the update stop after this one is made, and the DLCs too. But let's be honest, you can play this game for hundreds of hours as it is anyway. So yeah, August 19th, you'll be able to play the final update for Dead Cells version 35. So there you go. If you want to check that out, that'll be available soon. Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble has shown off its 2024 roadmap. I'm guessing free updates and DLC are included here. In July, they released new multiplayer stages and some new characters like Tails, Knuckles, and Amy all came to the game. In September, they are planning on a new multiplayer mode along with Axel and Beat. Axel from Crazy Taxi and Beat from Jet Set Radio, along with a new character pack for the monkeys called the Sega Costume Pack. And then in late 2024, they're going to be adding more characters, more stages, and more modes as well to the game. So kind of a bare bones roadmap, but still a roadmap nonetheless. But if you want to play as Amy, Knuckles, or Tails, you can do that right now if you want to. A game called Guns of Fury got a trailer recently. People are comparing this to Metal Slug, which is, of course, one of the reasons why I'm talking about it here. Obviously, it's hard to make a Metal Slug type game without maybe making it too close to Metal Slug. This one seems to have a bit more destructible environments. Of course, they still have this graphic, this like pixel art, cartoony style gameplay to it for the characters and the backgrounds, but it seems like they're bringing in the larger than life bosses, the hardcore gameplay, and of course, plenty of grenades and secrets to find as well. It seems like you'll be equipping and unequipping weapons, so it's not like you're just going to pick up a weapon for a couple of rounds and then move on from it. So it seems like it's going to have a bit of maybe like a not Symphony of the Night, Castlevania or Metroidvania style where you pick up various weapons to help get your way through levels, maybe go back and replay levels. I'm not sure, but it seems like it's going to be pretty cool. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not level based. It's an interconnected world. Okay, so that makes more sense for Metroidvania. But anyway, it's a run and gun type game, 16-bit graphics, hundreds of unique items to discover, including multiple weapons, knives, and accessories. There'll be about 10 major bosses in the game, plus side bosses. You'll acquire new abilities, Metroidvania-esque. You'll take control of a variety of different mechs, each with its own array of attacks and abilities. Discover secrets and breakable walls. Ooh, Callus, breakable walls. Destructible environments, alternate endings, and a soundtrack done by Dominic Ninmark. If you want to check that out, this game will be available later in 2024. No official release date just yet, but just 2024 on Switch and Steam. This might be a game that I pick up. It looks pretty good. I like the graphics style, and I like the idea of it, so I'll probably pick this up and check it out later this year. World of Goo 2 officially released this past week, but there is going to be a physical edition coming to Switch in October. In this article, it says that the pre-orders are available now at select retailers, but I checked pretty much every single retailer that I could. Walmart, GameStop, Best Buy, Target. None of them had a pre-order for the game, so I'm guessing the pre-orders still aren't available, so, whatever. But they said that they are excited to be working with 2D Boy to release a physical version of World of Goo 2. World of Goo 2 is oozing in personality and fun, and we're delighted to bring the game to even more Nintendo Switch players looking to have this in their physical collection. So, of course, you can buy it now digitally, or the physical version is coming October 29th. I'm probably going to wait for the physical version just because I'm that kind of guy, and I feel like if it's a limited release, it's probably going to skyrocket in price there. So, there's my Yemmy tip for collectors for the episode. Probably buy the Switch edition of the World of Goo 2. It's probably going to be a bit pricey later down the road. All right, here's some games that are coming to PlayStation Plus Essentials for August. These will be available the first Tuesday of August, so that'll be the 6th of August. So, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, giant Lego game. Wasn't my favorite thing ever, but decent enough. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. This was a pretty big game when it came out. Lots of people played it. Lots of people speedrunning it. Never played it myself, so this will be a chance for me to do that, probably in October. And then Ender Lilies Quietus of the Nights. I have no clue what that is. But that's apparently only coming, or it's getting a PS4 version only. You'll be able to play it on PS5, of course, with backwards compatibility. But there you go. Apparently, Ender Lilies is a excellent Metroidvania. Check that out if you want to. Those will be available on August 6th. I'm sorry, August 7th. No, August 6th. I was right. August 6th. Nintendo has expanded its online services, the GBA online library, with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Red Rescue Team, and only Red Rescue Team. No other Pokemon games, but it's a good sign to at least see a Pokemon game other than the Pokemon puzzle game and Pokemon Snap coming to the service. It seems like they're doing everything except the mainline Pokemon games. It's pretty crazy, but this will be available on August 9th. Japan will be receiving the same game on its service, so there's not any differences there. If you don't know what this game is, neither do I really. I never played this one back in the day. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is a new world set in the Pokemon universe where you can speak and interact with other Pokemon. The adventure begins when you and your partner Pokemon set out on a rescue mission in a world ravaged by natural disasters. but what is your true purpose and destiny of this Pokemon world? That's the real mystery. So there you go. If you want to check that out, that's going to be available on August 9th to play with the Nintendo expansion service for the Game Boy Advance. And finally, here's some games leaving Xbox Game Pass on the 15th of August. We have Airborne Kingdom, Off-World Trading Company, Shadow Warrior 3, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Those last two games are the ones that I would suggest you play before they're gone. I never played the other two, so I don't know anything about them. But Shadow Warrior 3, pretty fun Doom clone, like Doom Eternal or Doom 2016 clone. The game lost a lot of its personality while doing that, but it's still pretty fun. And then the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of those isometric, kind of Dead by Daylight type horror games. It was pretty good. I actually enjoyed my time with it. So if you want to check that out, maybe play a couple rounds of that. It's definitely worth it. I don't know how the player base is nowadays, but back when I originally played it, it was pretty strong. So there you go. All right, let's go ahead and go over to the Guess That Song section. I'll be playing a song. You just need to tell me what the name of the song is and the game that it came from, and I will give you a super reaction in the Discord, or I will give you a heart and a congratulations comment on the YouTube channel. If you know what the song name is and the game that it came from, let me know. Here's a song right now. Okay, if you know the name of the song and the game that came from, let me know in the comments below or on the Discord, link down below. All right, folks, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Fair 64. Hope you enjoyed. I stream on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday right now because we're doing the backlog bonanza for the summer months. That's coming to a close at the end of August, though, so we'll see how many games we officially got through and how and who won the contest. But we still have a couple weeks of it, so we'll see how that goes. If you want to check out anything else I do, it's all at Yemmy the Ferret, whether it be on YouTube VOD's channel, or on Twitter. I also run a podcast called Film Freaks with a Z at the end, where we talk about movies. The latest episode is about Independence Day. The next episode is going to be about Arrival. If you want to check out that conversation, that'll be available next week. All right, folks, have a good rest of your day. Have a good rest of your weekend. Have a good rest of your week. I am Yemmy the Ferret, and I'm out of here. So long. The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by Yemmy the Ferret. The song Nightshade, used in the intro and outro, is owned by Adhesive Wombat. Small sound clips during the podcast were made by Yemmy the Ferret. News sources include NintendoLife.com, PushSquare.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions video game related are my own. Thank you for listening.